I know there's a lot of options out there. You can get ready with someone else each and every morning, but you guys decide to continue to come here. It is a jam-packed show. You know, when I'm getting ready for the show, Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, especially this part of the year, you're really digging into, man, what's going to stick? And originally, for some of you guys that watch the show and are devout listeners and watchers of the show, I was going to talk about the Devin Booker dilemma and some of the issues that Devin Booker has had over the past couple of weeks, things that you're just like, you can't let slide. And oftentimes people will continue to point out there just how bad Devin Booker's been and how you're not holding him accountable, which I think is nonsense. I think I'm pretty good at holding everyone accountable. But then other things just fall into your lap. For those of you that don't know, I obviously cover the Phoenix Suns for Locked On Suns podcast. Obviously, it's there every single morning. And I'm at every single home game that on a weeknight, like the days that we have a show and there's a game, I'm at that game because we're doing our show from the game. And stories just fall right into your lap. So before we dive into it, guys, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, tell a friend about Ben Garcia Show. Follow me on all social media platforms at Ben Garcia Show. The way last night's game ended, I explained it last night on Locked On Phoenix Suns basically like this. I had basically said, this could only happen to the Phoenix Suns. Kevin Durant, almost a little like scary how ironic it was last night. He starts his career as a Phoenix Sun, rolling his ankle on the same side of the court, almost in the same exact spot where Kevin Durant rolled his ankle the first time. And there's a chance he ends his career as a Phoenix Sun rolling an ankle. And you wonder where it all went wrong for this team. Was it trading the Twins? I kind of disagree there. Suns were already moving down the contender ladder. I think ultimately what I got to last night after losing Kevin Durant to an ankle injury where it could be his last time as a Phoenix Sun, I think of it like this. And this is a lesson that I was taught a long time ago with this Suns team. And it was this. Each year that goes by, every game that goes by, the 2021 NBA Finals loss looks way worse. One of the issues with that Finals loss is I shook it off better than most because I just assumed the Suns would be back. They were young, they were spry, they were just hitting their stride. And then 2022 happened. And they didn't catch as much of a break in terms of injuries. I'm not saying the Suns didn't get into the playoffs because of the injuries. But what I am saying is, listen, it is, let's not act naive here. The Suns got fairly lucky in terms of who they got to play. And what I learned from that playoff series, and it took me about a year to learn that in 2022, was, man, when you get to the championship, when you get to the final round, when you get to the finals, the World Series, the Super Bowl, it doesn't matter what it feels like. If you're ahead of schedule, if you're behind schedule, it is so hard to get back that you need to make it count when you're there. It's one of the reasons with the Diamondbacks when I maybe took it a little bit harder than everyone else when they went to the World Series. Because what I learned from that experience was, all right, no more, it's just fun to be here after beating the Phillies in the NLCS. It is really hard to get back here. Look at the Phillies right now. They thought they were a shoo-in to go back to the World Series the year that they played the Diamondbacks in the NLCS. But what happens? You count your chickens before they're hatched? They lose in Game 7. And the following year, don't make it back to the World Series either. I think what we've learned is, man, you have to take care of business when you're in the NBA Finals. You just do. And people are asking the question of, is that the last time we've seen Kevin Durant? I got to be honest with you. I'm not sure how true that is. Just because there's obviously the 65-game rule. He is more than qualified to be on the All-NBA team. It's not going to help him in terms of money. He's already got that completely tucked away. It's not going to help him in terms of potential, obviously, greatness. We know he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. But I do think getting on the All-NBA team matters for Kevin Durant. And I do think he'll want to get that. He's at 62 games as of last night. He needs 3 more games to reach that 65-game threshold, which, by the way, still an amazing rule. I have no issues against it. But Kevin Durant rolling an ankle last night, it's poetic justice, man. Not for Kevin Durant. No one's rooting for an injury. Hope the guy is... Honestly, I hope that he just sits out because it's not worth it to watch him, struggle with an ankle injury that can be kind of testy. If he wants to come back, awesome. But no one's rooting for an injury. Kevin Durant doesn't deserve an injury. No one in the NBA deserves an injury. But this is kind of what the Suns signed up for. Kevin Durant, that I don't think this is fair, is largely seen as a somewhat injury-prone person. Bradley Beal, injury-prone player. And the Suns went all in on this team, knowing the injury history, knowing the depth that they didn't have. He started his career as a Phoenix Sun rolling his ankle on the same exact spot in the same side of the floor, and he ends it rolling his ankle. And it sucks, man. It does make you feel bad for Kevin, at least, a little bit. I know it's just an ankle injury. He's going to be perfectly fine. But he thinks he's making the right decision when he came to Phoenix. We had a pep rally for the guy. Clearly wasn't the right decision. And he's going to get a lot of blame for it. When more so it should be Devin Booker, along with others, for the Suns' mishaps and failures. If this was the end of the Kevin Durant era, what I will say is it's mercifully over. I can't stand when people just lie on social media for likes and retweets. And when people were saying last night when Kevin Durant went down, oh man, 36 was so much fun. First off, I think you're an idiot and weird if you're calling players by their numbers. I think it's so corny. Maybe not an idiot. Maybe not. Maybe that's a little far. But I think it's really corny to call someone by their name. But whatever. I see the Kevin Durant loves you, Phoenix, or it was so fun to have you here. No, it wasn't. It's not Kevin Durant's fault, but the Suns era with the big three, air quotes, was largely tough to watch. And this team and this experiment will not only go down as one of the biggest failures of Phoenix Suns history, probably the biggest failure in Phoenix Suns history, right up there with Game 7 against the Mavericks or other mishaps in this franchise's history, but right up there with one of those horrific failures. It'll be this experiment. Because regardless of what fans say or 2020 hindsight viewers, we all thought Bradley Beal, 95% of us, was going to work here, and it was going to be splendid to watch. But this experiment with Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, and Devin Booker is not only one of the biggest failures in NBA history, it's probably the biggest failure in Suns history, without a shadow of a doubt. This team with this combination of players, has a total of 6 playoff wins. And their final 2 seasons together, they're going to have no playoff wins. That is with Bradley Beal, who before the injuries was going to get some Hall of Fame votes, but that's because everyone gets in the Hall of Fame in the NBA. Kevin Durant, a first ballot Hall of Famer, top 10 basketball player of all time. And Devin Booker, who in my opinion was seen as the best number 2 in the NBA. But still, roster construction was bad. They valued name brand talent over the little things. And for that being said, it's going to cost them. It could cost the Suns their golden boy, Devin Booker. I'm not rooting for that. I hope it doesn't happen. But this is such a catastrophic failure. It's going to have catastrophic consequences. And watching Kevin Durant grab his ankle last night while the entire stadium in unison groaned, that was tough, man. That was tough. I could sit here and blame other players and blame people, but that's not really what this is about. It's about recognizing your failures and moving on. And this is probably how it ends. Not just as a catastrophic failure this season, but a catastrophic experiment for this entire team. So, tough. And I feel for every single Suns fan last night that watched the entirety of that game, just hoping there was going to be a switch flipped, and it never came. And it's kind of, reminiscent of what it's been the entire time. We all were just waiting for a switch to get flipped, and that switch never got flipped.